You wanted the best. You've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. Chris Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. The Chris Voss Show. Hey, coming here with another great podcast. We certainly appreciate you tuning in. Let me check my notes here. Say something funny and improv a really interesting but crazy, somewhat stupid ramble. Wait, that's not what I'm supposed to read. Anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We guys certainly appreciate being here. We had a guest author. Actually, I don't think it comes out till tonight for the book Bounded. And he was calling in from France. And he's like, I love your rambles, the improv rambles. And he goes, and I go, I didn't know they were called rambles. And so you'll see that show coming out later tonight on his amazing book, The Wall Street Journal. 2 Wall Street journalists that were on the show. And he's like, I love your ramble. And I'm like, I didn't know what it was called. I just improv something at the beginning of the show. So there's your ramble, kids. Whatever. I'd read you my other list that I have, but that's just milk, eggs, meat, cheese. It's the grocery list. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys. Welcome to the show where the family that loves you but doesn't judge you. At least, mostly. I mean, we judge a couple people if I meet you in person, I might judge you. But the show, the Chris Voss Show itself, is an entity that doesn't exist. So it doesn't have any judgmental capacities. So therefore, it is the family that loves you but doesn't judge you. Be sure to refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to youtube.com/Chris Voss. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss. See our big LinkedIn group of 120,000 people on LinkedIn and LinkedIn newsletter. That's always taking good thing to do. And of course, you can go to our consulting thing at chrisvossleadershipinstitute.com. We're going across the screen there, so gave me a chance to read it. We have an amazing gentleman on the show. He's going to be talking about his company, his startups, what he's built, how he's doing it, and how it's done. Gary Guseinov is on the show with us today. He's the Chief Executive Officer at RealDefense. Gary, did I get your name right?
You got it.
There you go. I practice hard. I'm good at practicing. Welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thanks for having me.
There you go. We're talking to you today about your company, leadership, how you started it, et cetera, some of your history, and get some leadership tips from you as well. Tell us what is the dot for your company? The dot SE, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just a creative way to spell out our company entity name and the domain name. We're not in Sweden, so we're actually in Pasadena, California.
Oh yeah, is that Sweden?
Yeah, Sweden.
I would have guessed SW, but I'm not good at all these dots. Give us that dot so that people have it and they can find it on the interwebs.
Sure, it's RealDefense.se. So it's RealDefense, the full word with the dot before the SE.
.se. And give us a little bit of a bio on you. What sort of background, other startups you may have been involved in or founded. Tell us more about you.
Sure. So we founded RealDefense in 2017. We are institutionally backed leverage buyout firm. So we focused on buying consumer and privacy companies in North America and Europe. We've raised about $30 million. We bought 4 companies. One of the brands that you've probably heard of, seen or bought or maybe used, it's called Iolosio System Mechanic. It's a very popular consumer product on tens of millions of devices around the world. And prior to that, I was with a company called Anchor Free. We had a very popular VPN product called Hotspot Shield with 650 million users around the world.
Wow.
Mostly in Europe, some in the United States, obviously. And prior to that, or right after that, I should say, I helped my ex found an influencer marketing company called Incast, where we were the first company to introduce TikTok to Latin America and then ultimately to the United States. And so have a lot of experience in direct response, have probably acquired over 1 billion consumers for different ventures that I've been involved with, and have raised $250 million to $500 million in venture and private equity money.
That's quite a history. Are you guys based in Silicon Valley?
No, we're based in Pasadena.
Okay, Pasadena. You said that
Yeah,
earlier. I should have
yeah,
remembered that. Pasadena, what a great. I grew up in La Cañada, just
yeah,
in La Crescenta, over
right
in that
there.
area and stuff.
Yeah.
So, pretty cool. And so, what is Real Defense as a whole? How would you describe it as a company?
So we're developers.
Hmm.
We develop our own code. We also license code. We have consumer privacy products. So
Hmm.
antivirus to password management, identity protection, remote technical support. We have a range of consumer products and services for PCs, Macs, iOS, and Android devices. And so we're consumer facing. We do have SMB customers, but we're very similar to McAfee, Norton, companies like that.
What made you interested in starting this company and doing what you've done so far?
Sure. So there's a very few options for consumers when it comes to privacy and security.
Hmm.
There are not a lot of products out there who are focused on consumers. There are a lot of products for enterprises and SMBs, but not a lot of products for consumers. And consumers are the most vulnerable in terms of scale. There are
Hmm.
more devices that are owned by consumers than there are by enterprises. And so we think it's a great opportunity. We think there's a big gap in the market in terms of product offerings and technologies, and we have a really good technology platform. We have a lot of developers that have been with us for close to 20 years, and we're very excited about what we're doing. We're growing really quickly and addressing some of these gaps.
There you go. And what are some of the companies that you guys have underneath your umbrella?
Sure. So we've got, I would say companies are brands. So our top brand is Iolo. Like I mentioned earlier, we have another brand called Stopzilla, which is a pretty popular product and
Hmm.
brand that was out there, probably started about 20 years ago. My Clean PC, we have another brand called My Clean ID. You probably have seen these advertised all over the place.
Hmm.
Um, let's see what else. They're all listed on our website. There's
Yeah.
about 15 of them. So
US Tech Support, Warranty
yeah,
Star, Cyber Defender, Get My Drivers, Virus Fix, My Hacked Email. Sounds like a lot of very good security products to help people deal with a lot of their stuff that they have. My mom and my sister, I don't know where they go on the internet, but they pick up every amount of virus and cookie and pop up. At one point, I remember years ago, my sister had so many toolbars that she signed up for from different places that it was literally closing off half the screen. And I think we found like 2,000 bugs on her system.
oh my god, wow,
It
that's
was quite
impressive.
great. My mom called me the other day and she's like, "Hey, I'm getting all these pop-ups. What do I do?" And it's just and a lot of people don't know how to deal with these. So I guess a lot of the companies you have really deal in a lot of the security stuff.
Yeah, we understand consumer behavior, and as much as we like to be careful online. Sometimes we make mistakes, and sometimes it's not a matter of making a mistake. It's a matter of just being exposed to these risks. And so you may be doing everything right, and you can
Hmm.
still you still have a virus infection, and you can still have a problem with your device. But we're also seeing, besides security problems, there are obvious sort of utility problems like printers not working or Wi-Fi is too slow, IoT devices not connecting to your network. You're trying to sync your phone to your home alarm system, and the other way around. And so, who do you call? Do you call the device manufacturer or the software developer? Uh, in our case, you call us, and we will deal with these issues on your behalf. We'll make sure they work. We'll secure them and monitor them. And so, we're like an IT department for your home.
There you go. Well, that's better because when you said who you going to call, I usually call Ghostbusters for that thing, and I'm like, "There's a demon living inside my computer. Can you come over and exercise it?" So there you go. So is the flagship of your brand the Iolo?
Yes.
Hmm. And it develops and markets the number one PC magazine rated system mechanic app.
Yep.
Give us more of a dive down on what that does and how it does it.
Sure. So, Iolo System Mechanic is developed in-house. We built the technology over the past 20 years, and it incorporates privacy tools, a driver, your hard drive optimization, capabilities where we can optimize your drive, get rid of files that are slowing you down. We have privacy tools. Basically, in your Windows operating system, there are some features that track your behavior. We allow you to turn those features on and off as you wish. We also have a feature that allows you to be private when you search. So we have a private search engine called Iolosio Safe Search. So it's very similar to DuckDuckGo, if you ever use that. We try to mitigate as much data that you give up when you use the internet without you having to give it up. And so we try to reduce it, but also give you control over that information. So if you do want to give up that information, like let's say you want to give up your geolocation when you're searching on Google, in that instance, maybe you should give it up because the search results will be accurate. But maybe you only want that for that one instance. You don't want to do that all the time. And so we give you those tools. We have an antivirus built in. We also have a password manager built into the suite. So it's like a Swiss Army knife for your computer. It does a lot of things and protects your privacy, protects your device, protects your passwords, and it's inexpensive. We were sold in 20,000 different retail locations around the world, including Staples, Best Buy. We are partnered with every single hardware device manufacturer like Dell, Lenovo, Acer, Asus, so you can buy a product through them. Some of our partners have bundled our product on their devices when you buy a brand new computer, brand new laptop. So we're pretty much all over the place. We also license our technology to partners. Some of the biggest technology companies in the world that sell antivirus license our technology. So we've got a pretty good presence around the world.
That's pretty awesome. It says over 100 million users worldwide.
Yep.
That's quite amazing, man. That's amazing. There's Stopzilla, My Clean ID. Is there any others that you maybe want to touch on?
Yeah, they'll have the respective strengths and weaknesses. They're much smaller. All these other brands are much smaller than Iolo, and so over the next 12 to 24 months, we're going to be sort of combining all of these brands under the Iolo umbrella. So just be Iolo brand across the board. We think it's the strongest brand. We think it's has the longest reach, and makes it easier for consumers to decide which product to buy. And some of these products kind of overlap. They've come to us through acquisitions, and so it was not designed. It was not by design that we have all these brands. We just acquired a lot of these brands.
Yeah, and there's so much stuff that can happen in your computer between all the tracking and the cookies, viruses, anti-malware. It's insane. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like I say, my mom and my sister, the amount of stuff they've accumulated on their computers is just crazy. And then I think my mom just bought a laptop, and yeah, she didn't run it through me. So she ended up buying one of these cheap laptops where you don't get the Windows license, but you think you do. But I think all the tracking and probably whoever sold it has some sort of stuff crap on it, which is probably why she's getting pop-ups all the time and even in Chrome, which is kind of interesting. But yeah, people just don't realize what they're getting into, and of course how much they can be compromised. I mean, I have a lot of security, and I still end up, having my stuff betrayed on, when sites get hacked and stuff.
Yeah. Well,
it can be a challenge, definitely.
So, challenge.
What's it like scaling businesses like this? Talk to us a little about the business end of it. What's it like, building a management team, leading this sort of company, taking it from? Did you take this company from ground zero to what it is today?
No. So what we did is we acquired companies that are already profitable and operating, and so we used investors' capital and our own capital to put together a company basically that is just like an acquisition company. And so we acquired these assets. Our sweet spot in our company is to do restructuring. We optimize expenses, we bring expenses down, and then we optimize revenue by optimizing customer acquisition costs, average order value, lifetime value, and all those key metrics that are relevant. And by doing those things very well and because we have a good management team and good support, we're able to have success in our acquisition strategy.
There you go. There you go. There's a lot of these different kind of systems on the interwebs. Like if you go to, a different place on the internet, or you get offered and stuff, you have to worry about what's really behind it. Like I'm trying to think of that antivirus that's out of Russia that everyone worries about. Yeah. Talk to us about how safe your products are and stuff like that.
Well, the most important thing is our products are made in the United States, so they're developed in America. That's you can walk into our office in Pasadena and you'll see developers sitting and coding. So it's not coming from Mars or some other place far away. When it comes to antivirus software, you have to be careful because antivirus software has the deepest connection in your operating system. In other words, it looks at everything that's inside of your operating system. That's why it's an antivirus. It has to. Yeah. If it doesn't, then it's not going to work properly. So it's like giving someone keys to your home. If you don't have access to the house.
Sounds like the Brandon fiber I take.
Yeah, and you have to do that with antivirus companies, and you have to give them access. So if you don't trust the source where the code came from, don't use the product.
Yeah, right? I mean, because you're giving them the keys to the store, basically, right?
You gave them the keys to the store, and that's what it's at. It's very simple.
Yeah. I think that's really important for consumers to do because, even my mom would be like, or somebody would be like, hey, I downloaded an antivirus thing. You're like, from who? I don't know. It'll pop up on the interweb. You're like, it's probably not going to work out. That's probably not going to work out. And yeah, I mean, there's so many like Chinese ones and, I used to go, play with stuff. I go on download.com and I'd be like, let's try this MP3 converter or something, back in the day. And, then weird stuff starts going on your computer or it's going to weird places. You're like, shut it down. And there's just so many different ways you can be tracked and everything else. What other advice do you have for people on how to be more secure on the interweb?
Well, there's a few things. One is obviously use a trusted antivirus and don't use necessarily free versions of products. There's a huge difference between a free version and a paid version. And a lot of times these antivirus companies don't tell you necessarily what's included in a free version versus a paid version to the extent that it's obvious, right? So they'll say, we'll do an update, but if it's free, you have to do it yourself, or it's once a week. And if it's paid, then it's real time and that kind of stuff. And for consumers, the best option is just to pay for it. It's not that expensive. It's under, if it's $40, $50 a year, and it's kind of turn on and let it be, and just keep paying for a subscription. That's the only thing you got to worry about. But there's a lot more than just viruses. There's hackers that hack your email and password, for example. Well, how do you know that? Well, there's services out there that tell you if your email's been hacked. And they go into the dark web, they search for instance of your email, it comes up, and I will guarantee you that almost any email that's been out there for more than a month has probably been hacked.
Wow.
Yeah. So you have to be really careful about password management. This has to do with how often you change it, what kind of a password you have. Make sure it's difficult to crack. Don't use your pet's name and 123 or your birth date or things that are very obvious. Use something unique with different characters. Capital letters and numbers and words, letters, and make it difficult for people to guess. And then track it to see if the password comes up in the world, out there in the dark web, whether or not someone's actually got a username and password from one of your websites you visit. So, for example, let's say you use a online storage service, and that online storage got hacked into, or you play a video game, and that video game system got broken into. They took your password and username, and now they have access to that account. But not just that account, any account that uses that username and password, that email and password.
Yeah.
So you may not think that, these people are they're hackers, right? So they'll go out and then write a program that goes out to all top websites, including bank accounts, including brokerage accounts, and will automatically populate those accounts with that username and password to see if it can go through.
Wow.
And that's why people get hacked.
Yeah, I've seen that happen where I get
Yeah.
notifications saying, someone's trying to break in your account. They're using an old password they found on one of these sites.
Yeah.
There's I forget the name of the one site where it like lets you know if your emails come up. So I ran the Iolosio software on my computer and downloaded the
Yeah.
trial. It found 35,941 issues. 404 system recommendations. Looks like I got a lot of internet junk files, Windows junk files, registry issues. It also says that I have some issues I should see a psychiatrist about. No, it doesn't say that, but it probably should. And it recommends that I hire the exorcist to. The power of Christ compels you. I'm going to have to get some holy water, I guess, and throw it on the computer. I'm just kidding, folks. Don't do that.
That's one feature I forgot to mention. Yeah,
that's one feature. Is that the upgrade? I've been known to probably do that from time to time, or feel like I should do that. The power of Christ, throw holy water on the old computer there. But you make a good point. That's why I always use the password that's on my luggage, 12345. That's a joke from me, by the way. I don't do that. So 35,000 issues, 941 on my computer. Holy crap. Here I thought I was being good, and I'm not, clearly.
Well, if you use your computer often, like you probably use your computer all the time for doing your shows and doing research. Every time you go to a website, every time you click on an image, every time you do anything online, there's a trace of that. And so that information gets stored. It gets stored in your computer. It gets stored in the cloud, and it creates a record. And so when we do an analysis of your device, depending what type of analysis you ran, but assuming you ran the whole drive, if you have a large hard drive and like I said, you use a computer often, there's going to be a lot of items that are going to be found. Now, it doesn't mean that you're compromised. It doesn't mean that you've been hacked. It doesn't mean that your computer is going to break down. It just means that there's files there that should be removed or can be removed, and to create a more optimal experience. So temporary files, certain registry files that may slow down your device, files that are just eating up your disk space. And so if your disk space is already low, and you're adding more files to it, your computer is going to be noticeably slower because software needs that memory, needs that extra disk space to run. And so you'll see a degradation. You're also going to see degradation in your internet connectivity. You're going to see degradation in the way your browsers open up windows and how content is rendered. So if you're a gamer, you certainly need this because you're constantly going to be tying up your bandwidth. You're tying up your CPU speed. And so these are the types of tools you should be using.
Yeah, I'm a very big gamer. In fact, there was one of my games, favorite games, Destiny. They started having a thing where people could ping your IP address and DDoS you through the text chat in the game. It was like really crazy. Wow. Yeah, it's like insane what they can do. You think you're gaming, you're like, well, I'm kind of in a closed off environment. I'm probably safe from hackers or weird people, but no, you're not. It's kind of weird. Anything more we want to touch on about you guys and how you do it?
Well, we're like I said, we're growing. We're seeing during the pandemic, a lot of consumers went out and bought new devices, and not just computers, about cameras, about printers, about cables, and what have you. And so now all those devices are being utilized. Consumers are working from home. They're going to school from home. That trend hasn't really changed. I mean, we're going back to work, going back to the office, but a lot of people are not, and so. That created a big demand for what we do, and we're hiring people. And so if you're a developer, you're a marketer, please check our website. We're looking to hire people. So
the other thing too, I would say, is there's more kids probably online now than ever before because they're online doing the Zoom schooling, and everybody's online now at the house. I remember when the pandemic started, watching my friends, they had to set up the kids on the computers, and I thought my mom and sister were bad, but I can't imagine what kids click on that gets them into some ugly parts of the web or downloads God knows what virus and et cetera, et cetera. They're like, oh, hey, it's a cute picture, and click it, and so there's the access points have definitely expanded. And then of course there's IoT, Internet of Things, where I've seen sometimes where I'll monitor our home network, and we'll see points that are bleeding out for some reason, sending lots of traffic back to probably China or wherever they send their data. And you're like, wow, okay, that's eating up a lot of data. What's going on over there? We need to shut that down or something. So even IoT isn't as secure as people think it is for some of the different things that are going on in your home.
Well, yeah, actually, we have a feature coming out in our product. Part of it is already there, but the new version is going to have a more improved experience where we tell you what devices are connected to your network,
Mm-hmm.
and actually tell you how to deal with them.
Mm-hmm.
And so make it more actionable. So, but you're absolutely correct. In a typical household in the United States right now, there's about 9 to 10 devices connected to the internet. That's significantly more than what was there about 10 years ago. 10 years ago, about 2 devices.
Yeah.
And now, significantly more. And so, interestingly enough, kids are actually a lot more sophisticated nowadays than they were, 15, 20 years ago, because
Mm-hmm.
they are growing up with this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a 2-year or 3-year-old and you are growing up in today's household, well, you're only going to see tech, right? You're not going to see
Yeah.
anything else. And so by the time you're 10 years old, you already learn how to use text apps and how to download videos and games. And so they're very sophisticated, and they know the difference between bad things and good things. They're educated from their parents or through the schools and what have you. And so the big fear is, things you can't see, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like you said, IoT devices. So if you bring a device home, you connect it, let's say it's a camera or an alarm system, what have you, and that system gets hacked into, but not your computer or your phone. And then that system is now seeing what you're doing, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
that's very hard to monitor, hard to, control. And so we have some technologies that we're working on that will help you sort of mitigate these types of risks. But it is a big problem, and that's everywhere. It's not just in your house. It's in the car. It's in the street lights, and anything that's connected to the internet is potentially a risk.
It's crazy. Everyone's like the internet dream, like everything, the internet's everywhere. And then you're just like, well, that's just access points everywhere.
Right.
Just entry
Right.
entry points where people can come in. Well, this has been pretty insightful. I'll test out the software and play with it. Does anything more we want to touch on before we go out?
Well, just basic tips. If it's too good to be true, don't click on it. If you get an email from your bank, make sure it's from your bank. Look at the
Yeah.
URL. Look at the email that's coming from. If it looks suspicious, it probably is. Don't click on it. If the bank says your password's been changed, or call the bank. Don't respond to the email. Just call the bank and talk to them on the phone. And so double verify, triple verify information. That's the best way to be safe.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's a new texting thing they do where they'll send you texts and they'll be like, your PayPal's been hacked, or that
Yep.
your bank has been hacked. Click this link. You get the emails that say click the link. I never click through a link. I mean, I just don't click through a link. If somebody sends me a click through link, I'm like, I'm not touching that. I don't know what that is unless I can see the URL and sense it. I'm not just not going to click it. If my bank sends me a message, I don't click the link. I type in the URL, and that's the best way to do it. I mean, I've seen some really good faked emails where they're really good. It looks like your
Yeah.
bank email, and you click on something and you give them your password and stuff, and they have an entry point. It's really crazy, and it just seems to be getting more and more abundant, the amount of viruses and hacks and people that want to do evil things with you and your money.
Well, because you can do it remotely, and if you
Mm-hmm.
think about the crime doesn't have a victim necessarily. There's no one gets really hurt, physically hurt, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so, if you're a criminal or want to be a criminal, this is a crime of choice because it's
Mm-hmm.
the most rewarding, the least likely to get caught, and no one gets hurt physically, right? So there's going to be a lot more of this crime. But I would
Mm-hmm.
say that if you can do basics like double, triple, verification of your data, your credentials, use your phone number, as a way to verify identity, verify access. And if you get an email from any financial institution that you use, whether it's a brokerage account, bank account, and it's asking you to take action, like fill out a form or to click on a link, before you do it, verify that it's from the source, and or call them directly. Don't rely on one source of communication. Call them. Takes a little extra time. It's inconvenient. But look, they steal your money. It's going to be very inconvenient to get it back.
Yeah.
So think about that.
Definitely. I mean, it's especially if it's Bitcoin or some sort of crypto. That stuff's been crazy these days. Two-factor identification is sometimes a pain, but it's sometimes so important, whether it's a text ID or whether you use an app like Authy or some other thing. It makes all the difference in the world. I mean, my GoDaddy, I think, is protected by 2 different entry points. There's two-factor, and then there's like a code that we use.
Right.
And yeah, when I call them, it's a pain in the butt to have to go through the codes. But I think of all the things that we could lose if someone got through there, and figured out my code was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, same as my luggage. I love that joke. I don't know why. It's a funny movie, Spaceballs. Anyway, anything more you want to tease out before we go?
I think I can talk for hours about this, so don't get me started. But
there you go.
I think I've given you the highlights.
There you go. Check out the brands they have on their website. Give us the .se again.
It's RealDefense.se. That's the corporate site, and for products or brand that we promote the most, it's Iolo, IOLO.com.
There you go. Thanks for being on the show. We really appreciate it, Gary.
Thank you, Chris. Good to have me. Good to
have you. Good to have you, and good to have me. It's good to have all of us.
All of us.
As long as we're all still here. That's always a good thing. Thanks a lot for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you guys being here. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, youtube.com/Chris Voss. All the places the crazy kids are playing on the interwebs. That's where the Chris Voss Show is. Or not. One of those two. It's not on Snapchat. Let's put it that way. For the most obvious reasons. It's a good joke. Thanks for tuning in. We certainly appreciate you, and we'll see you guys next time.